Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Kat here, and today we have another real-time bullet journal with me for July. This video is going to be a little bit different than my other plan with me's in real time because this theme took a while to do, and I don't want you to be here for a whole hour while I talk about the things that you should plan out and think about for the next bullet journal you use, especially if you're starting one in July like I am. So I'm going to try to make this very cohesive and entertaining while you plan your whole month for July, or maybe do some pages in your junk journal or write a letter to your pen pal and enjoy this video with me. I really wanted to focus on this topic because I didn't have time to do a proper video explaining all the things that you should think about before you start a new bullet journal. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Here are my 10 tips that you should think about when starting a new bullet journal. I'm going to try to touch on topics that are more focused in starting a new bullet journal, especially after you failed one or you're starting mid-year, because at the end of the year I'm going to have another video explaining how to actually plan for a new bullet journal for a new year. So grab your coffee or tea, grab your notebook, and let's journal together. So first I wanted to mention, if you're new here, that I've been bullet journaling for 8 years, and in June I actually launched my first bullet journal workshop, and I plan to do another one in September. And in that workshop I went through all the things that you should plan out in a bullet journal, what is a bullet journal, how to start, the pages to include, all of that jazz. And so I wanted to make a video also explaining the things that you should think about when starting a new bullet journal, especially if you're doing one mid-year. So I use 2 bullet journals per year, one starting in July and ending in June, and another one from July through December. This is what works for me. I feel like I have enough space in my bullet journal for 6 months, and I can do extra pages if I want to. And when I started bullet journal, my first bullet journal was from May 2017 to December 2017. And then I had another one from the whole year of 2018. And then I started breaking them down when the journal ended, but honestly for me it makes sense to do 6 months in each notebook. That's what works for me. If it works for you in a different way, that's totally fine. But since I'm starting a new bullet journal in now July, I kind of went to all of my old bullet journals and I started to look at the pages that I did and layouts, and I kind of remind myself of what it is to have a bullet journal and what to include in it, and not just do a whole new setup in autopilot, if that makes sense. I used to do that back in the day when I was at my IT job. I didn't really think about the pages that I was doing, and so I didn't want to commit the same mistake, especially now that I've been jobless for 6 months now. I really wanted to use my bullet journal as my planner, as it should be used, honestly, and not do things on autopilot. So here are the things that I did before I created my pages in my bullet journal that really helped me, that I wanted to share with you. And these are some things that I'm also going to share on my new bullet journal workshop that I'm going to have in September. So my first tip is to look back at your old bullet journals and see what worked and what didn't. So for me, I didn't had a future log in my past bullet journal, but I looked back at the other ones, and a bullet journal with a future log is a must-have. So when I was planning my pages for this one, I was like, maybe a future log was not working for me at that time because I was not taking the time to actually look at my bullet journal. But maybe it makes sense now to have one because I'm going to have events and appointments to look after too, and my head is going to be a lot clearer to plan things ahead. So I'm going to do a future log, and that's exactly what I did. And if you watched my 2025 bullet journal setup, you know that I did a future log for that same reason. And maybe you did a page 2 years ago that didn't really work out for you at that time, but maybe now it's the time to start again. I know that in the past I did a lot of mood trackers, and now I don't feel like it's still the time for them again, but maybe I can include one here in there as the months go by. But it's not a page that I'm saying that I'm never going to do again in my bullet journal, if that makes sense. But now it's just not for me. My second tip is to clarify your bullet journal purpose. So, why are you doing a bullet journal? Why do you use it every day? Why is it not working for you as it did in the past? This is something that for me was not working because I was really like revoking my old bullet journal. I was not happy with the theme that I chose. I was not happy with the layouts. I was not happy with the size of it. It was a lot of things that was not working for me anymore. And so, me checking my bullet journal every day was kind of a pain. I would prefer to have all my to dos in my brain and just do the things throughout the month. But honestly, that causes burnout and stresses me out. So, it's not working. And I decided to try another way of bullet journaling and it works much better. So I'm still doing my weekly spreads every day for my bullet journal that I'm using. But in July, I think I'm not going to have these types of weekly spreads anymore. I'm going to set up one weekly spread per month on my live streams, and maybe I'll do it on TikTok. I don't know. But maybe not have weekly spreads that I do at the end of each week. I would prefer to have the weeks all planned out and then just do that one specifically for the live stream. And we'll see how that works for me because the more steps you have in creating things in your bullet journal that you don't enjoy, the more likely you are to quit bullet journaling altogether. And for me, the purpose of my bullet journal is to help me create to do lists and keep myself organized and have my habits in time and in check every day. So if it's not doing its job, it's clearly not working for me. So I need to have a way in my bullet journal that works for me, if that makes sense. And I cannot live without a list and bullet journals. So quitting is not an option for me. I just need to keep designing and brainstorming new things to add into my bullet journal to make it work for me a lot better. So that is my second tip. And take this time to reflect on your bullet journal. What is working for you? What isn't? What are you doing wrong in your bullet journal? What would you wish that you had in a bullet journal now in your theme, in your monthly theme now that you didn't include in the other ones? What can you change? What can you add? What can you remove? All of that stuff. And this works as a monthly basis, but also works as a yearly basis because as you look at your past bullet journals, you will see all the pages that you created. And now you can see them better in a new light and see, like, yeah, maybe that weekly spread was good for me. Maybe that layout is better. And try it out and make a brain dump page in your journal right now and brainstorm all of it. And my third tip, since you brainstorm all of your pages right now, is to choose the right notebook. As I mentioned in my 2025 bullet journal setup, I was using a traveler's notebook because for me at the time it made sense. I was at a job, I didn't have much time to be creative. So a traveler's notebook actually shrinked my ideas in a sense. And I was happy using it, but I was not using it for my happiness of creating themes in my bullet journal. I was just using it because it was simpler to set up. And since I changed, and then with time, I discovered junk journaling and I got an A5 notebook for that. And I was like, maybe an A5 journal is not for me anymore. Maybe I need more. And so I changed from a traveler's notebook to an A5 notebook again. And I just created this theme. I just created my 2025 pages. And let me tell you that it makes a whole difference. And for some people, the A5 is still too small. They prefer a B5, and that's totally fine with it. I think that in your bullet journal journey, you should try different things. So far in these 8 years, I tried a traveler's notebook, I tried A5s, I tried grid bullet journals, I tried blank bullet journals, I tried smaller than A5, like not an A6, but like a mix between those two sizes. So I tried a lot of different types of pages and sizes of notebooks, and it makes a difference, especially if you're entering a new stage of life or if your next year is going to be different. Choose a notebook that is right for you. The notebook that I'm using is from Tifosi. They have other sizes as well, I think, and other types of pages as well, but this one is an A5 and has dotted pages. My fourth tip when starting a new bullet journal is to actually brainstorm all the pages that you want to have as your collections. So when I was planning my bullet journal for this year, or from July to December, I kind of brainstormed all the pages that I wanted to do. And I didn't do all of them because I'm going to do the rest of the pages as the months go by because I don't need them right now done for that setup. So I just did a few, but I have a list of all the pages that I wanted to include in my bullet journal and my sketchbook where I plan all of my setups. And for this year, I wanted to have a cover page that was fun, a future log, and just like I mentioned, the future log for me was a page that I was not doing for over a year now, but it made sense for me to do one again, so I added that in there. I have a goals page, and it's not just a blank goals page. I divided into four different sections. I have a brain dump for the year where I'm going to do all random to-dos for the year. I have it as one of my collections for 2025. And I also decided to include a to check out page where I can write movies, TV shows, and bands that I want to watch and listen to, because this is something that was really missing in my past bullet journal. So I made sure to make note of that and is not missing in this new bullet journal. And then I also have a bucket list page. And I posted on TikTok a few days ago the other pages that I was going to include in here. And I'm going to have other fun pages that I think are useful to me. For example, a page with all of my themes in my bullet journal for 2025, a page of movies that I watched this year, TV shows, um, my memories for the year, all of that stuff that I didn't include in that setup, but I'm going to include as the months go by, as I mentioned. And making this brainstorming of pages that you want to include as your collections is really interesting because you can see all the pages that you want to do and decide which ones to do now and to do later on. And one thing that I do is I also leave blank pages between the months. So I did all of my collections for the year now, and I left around 10 pages until I started my July theme. And I usually don't leave a lot of pages between months, just between collections and the monthly pages. But if I feel like I need to leave a couple of pages between months, I will do that in no time. For me, that's what works. And brainstorming your core collections for your bullet journal is a key to have a good bullet journal in use for the whole year. So I would recommend you to check out different 2025 and my other yearly setups that I have on my channel and see the pages that I did, because I always do different pages every year, and see the ones that you would like to include and other pages that you would like to try maybe later on this year, and make a list of them in your bullet journals. When you're setting up your new one, you already have a list of pages that you want to include. And also check out Pinterest and other bullet journalist accounts of all the pages that you want to do. And yeah, make sure that you use your bullet journal as you should and that it suits your needs. So creating a brainstorm for collections for the year is a must, and it's something that I highly recommend you to do right now if you can. Another tip that I have is to set mid-year intentions. Just like I mentioned, this video is more for people who are starting a bullet journal mid-year. And one of the things that I used to do that it's totally wrong is to just migrate all of your goals for the new year into your new bullet journal. And honestly, that doesn't really work because your goals might have shift, might have changed. You have new goals, you have other goals that you want to accomplish. So maybe having the same exact goals that you had in December, it's not going to be doable if you just migrate them now for July. Maybe you accomplished some of your goals, maybe you need some new ones in your life. And so make sure that you set mid-year intentions regarding that, and that you look at your past goals and see which ones still reside with you and which ones you want to continue accomplishing. Starting a new bullet journal also means that you can have a new set of goals for yourself. So doing that is totally life changing. And honestly, I'm going to do that near my birthday because it's at the end of the month. And I'm going to brainstorm of all the things that I just did and that I want to do for the rest of the year. Make sure that I set intentional goals for the rest of the year. My sixth tip is to create a reset checklist page. So, we all work in autopilot every now and then, and one thing that you can do to avoid that is to have a list that makes you hit reset on your life. I have a weekly reset checklist and a monthly reset checklist, and this is just for me to make sure that I'm hitting checkpoints, if you will, every week and every month, so I'm not working on autopilot. I used to do that when I was at my job, and it's really easy to fall into this habit of just keep doing things and not hitting stop and brainstorming about what you're doing, and to make sure that you reflect on what you're doing every week. So this checklist is really important. And especially if you're migrating into a new bullet journal, it's a new opportunity that you have to just make sure that you are taking a pause, taking a breather, see what you did, see what you want to do, and really plan ahead and with time. I do this every week, and for me, it's very life changing, honestly, because I can see how this week went and what I can do for the next week, and see if I'm aligned with my goals and with my habits and what I can change for the new week, and review my past week. And so, if this works for me on a weekly and monthly basis, imagine how much of a reset you can do in looking at the past 6 months and planning for the next 6 months ahead. And specifically for this 6 months reset checklist, I would include like pages that you did that you don't want to do, or habits that you would like to accomplish by the end of the year that you want to start working on right now. Maybe a bucket list or a big to do list of things that you should do around the house. We all have that drawer that is always unorganized, or some stationery laying around here and there. And it's really good to just have that reset checklist and make sure that you do those things so they don't extend 4 months on end. I had my stickers and papers all over the place in my studio that I share with my husband, and they were just everywhere, and I was just being annoyed every day for not organizing them. So the other day I just looked at my checklist, I had that in there, and I was like, okay, today's the day I'm going to organize this. And I did, and I feel so much better. So having this checklist is super, super important, and I highly recommend you include one not only for your week and for your month, but also for the new year or the next 6 months. My seventh tip is probably one of the most important ones, and is to make sure that you include your bullet journal into your routine. I cannot stress this enough. You will not use your bullet journal in the right way if you don't make a habit of it. For example, if you have a bullet journal and you check it every other day or every 2 days, or whenever you remember that you have a bullet journal, it's not just going to be useless for you, but you're not going to use a bullet journal the right way. A bullet journal is used for you to track every single day, to make sure it's updated, to make your life easier. So if you're not doing that, make sure that you include it in your routine. I did that back in the day where I had a habit tracker just for updating my bullet journal, and I made sure to fill in that tracker every single day. Not only it makes it pretty that your tracker is always full, but it also really helps that you're actually checking your bullet journal every day, and it's so good when you do that. Really feel like I'm more productive and that I have my ideas organized and my calendar organized and time blocking and all that stuff in a better organization system just because I check my bullet journal, aka my to-do list for the day, every single day. So that is something that I highly recommend you to do. And to include it in your routine, it means that you do it after something or before something. The same way that you brush your teeth before you leave the house in the morning, make sure that you include your bullet journal updating time before you leave the house or after breakfast or right after dinner or before you go to bed. Whenever you can find 5 minutes to just update your bullet journal, make sure you do it every single day. That is something that I highly recommended on my workshop, and I actually have a workbook available on my shop that has all of these daily and monthly and weekly check-ins for you guys. So if you would like to purchase that, it's on my shop. But just keeping it in your routine and make sure that you have a time for it is life-changing. My eighth tip when it comes to starting a new bullet journal is to actually take advantage and make room of your creativity. So, in my opinion, right now, I think that bullet journaling should be a mix of creativity and fun and productivity. And for me, for years, it worked this way, where I would do a bullet journal with the layouts that I like and the spreads that I like. But if I included a little bit of pizzazz and drawings here and there, it would turn out much better. And that's what I'm going to try this year, or at least for this 6 months. I don't know how my life is going to be in these next 6 months, but I really want to explore my creativity to the fullest. So, yeah, I'm really happy with this project, and I highly recommend that you try to add some creativity and doodles and stickers and fun into your bullet journal if you're starting a new one and haven't tried this thing out yet. My ninth tip is to create a brain dump page in your bullet journal. So I have a video on my channel all about a brain dump page and how I use it and what is it for. But I highly recommend that you try one. And in this setup, I didn't include one, but in my 2025 bullet journal setup in this notebook, I did. It's like that major to-do list that I showed you at the beginning of the video. For me, a brain dump page is a page where I have no rules, no lists, no restrictions, and I just add there stuff that it's in my mind that I have to do or I have to check out, or I need like to book as an appointment or something that is constantly bothering my mind, and that I know that if it's just in there, I'm not going to forget about it, but it's going to get done when it needs to get done. So for example, things in my random page that I include in there is, for example, if I had a vaccine to take, I will write that in there. If I have an appointment to make, I will have that in my random page. If there's something that I want to check out, either is a podcast, a video, or an app or a website, I write there in my random page. If I need to book something with someone or meet a friend, I will have that in my random page. And it's just things that they don't need to be done right now or today. They don't really have an expiration date, but it's something that you need to do and it's kind of bothering you every single day. I write in my random page. And I have one in my bullet journal every single year. And I used to have one per month, but now it's just on my to-do list. I don't need a separate page for that. But I feel like I always have to include a random page in my setup, just because if something comes to mind or there's something that I want to do that it's not like in my bucket list, I added to my random page. So for example, I want to have a calligraphy workshop at the end of this year, probably. So what do I have to do in order to do that? It can be on my bucket list, but it can also be on my random page so I don't forget to check out things about that. If I need to send an email to someone, I will add it into my random page. If I need to take care of a video or take B-roll from a video or something like that, I can write that on my random page. It's honestly whatever I need to write down so it doesn't bother in my mind is going to be on my random page. And I have a video on my channel dedicated to that, just so you know. And if you would like to watch it, it's going to be in the description down below. But a random page is really useful, especially if you have tons of ideas in your mind and you don't want to have a separate notebook for that list or create a page specifically for like bullet journal page ideas and themes. You just create a random page, and whatever it's on your mind, you literally dump in there. So that's how I use my random page and how I plan to use mine in my 2025 bullet journal. And this is something that I highly recommend because it truly helps you to organize your ideas and to be a better bullet journalist and not get burnout with so many things that you have to do. So yeah, you can also add tasks that you have to get done in specific months into the future log, but if you feel like a random page is better for you, you should consider that and include a random page in your collections. And my 10th tip is to have an open mind for mistakes. You're going to make mistakes in your bullet journal. You're going to create pages that you then never use. You're going to have trackers that you don't complete. You're going to have incomplete pages. You're going to have pages that you don't like. You're going to have pages in your bullet journal that are not beautiful. It's all part of the journey of a bullet journalist. And I plan to make a video about this more in depth on my channel soon because it's something that we don't show a lot on the internet, and I feel like it's useful for other people, especially beginners, to see that us, people that have been bullet journaling for years, do those mistakes every so often. And for example, when I will post my 2025 first bullet journal flip through, you're going to see some of the pages that I did in my collections that I ended up not using, and it's okay. And I'm not going to force myself into updating them now just to look pretty on the flip through, because life gets in the way and sometimes you plan to do a page and then you just don't use it as much as you thought you would, and that's okay. And so making those mistakes and having months where your bullet journal is not the best, or you don't do the perfect pages that you wanted to, it's totally fine. And speaking of mistakes, I also want to mention that if you plan to use a bullet journal and then stop for a few months because you need the time and you don't want to have a bullet journal or you don't need a bullet journal, and then you come back, that's totally fine as well. Just make sure that you do the check ins that I mentioned and use all of these tips that I mentioned before so you don't miss anything into your new bullet journal. But for me, that's going to be all. I just wanted to make sure that you know how to set up a new bullet journal for the mid-year or for the new year if you're watching this in December, and that bullet journaling is something that is very versatile and customizable all the time. So you don't have to have your bullet journal all figured out now and just do it in a consistently thing all the way. You can just do a theme now and a way of bullet journaling now and then change it later on. It's totally fine. I have many flip throughs of my journals on my channel. So if you like to watch those for inspiration, make sure you do because I didn't start my bullet journal like this. And I feel like it's really useful to make sure that you see all of those bad things, quote unquote, in other people's bullet journals in order to stay down to earth and real to yourself when bullet journaling. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed these 10 tips that I used when I start a bullet journal. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this plan with me in real time. I hope you took some time to plan your bullet journal or write a pen pal letter or whatever you did in this time. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.